right? I was a little bit stressed about going to DC. I was a little bit stressed about leading and talking about history.
You allowed the worry to infiltrate the energy.
Yeah. And in that infiltration, all these inner child things came up. My insecurity is a feeling that I'm not smart enough. She doesn't fit in with her own people. Oh, we should be able to connect and have a great time because we have things in common. And all of a sudden, it was like, we're like this.
You can heal your life, right? And
Mm.
then you say, oh, I'm healed. I did that work. And the universe says, you did some of that work. Let me show you where the rest of your work is. Our triggers and our responses are all inside wounds that we're forever working on. We have wounds that we are so subconscious that we can't recognize them until we see them again with adult eyes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Authentic Conversations. Oh my goodness, if this is your first time joining us, well, welcome. I am Amarelis, and I have Susan with me, like always, my partner in crime. What's going on, Susan?
I'm here with Amaryllis. I don't know what's not going on.
There's a lot going on. There's a full moon.
It is.
If we're going to be
Tomorrow.
authentic with our timing, June 3rd, a new month. And you know what? There's just a lot of the summer energy. We were all waking up. We're more excited to be out in nature, to reconnect with Mother Earth. So there's just so much energy going on. You and I have been traveling a lot and dealing with a lot of people coming and going in our paths. I was doing a lot of work. I tour guide in New York and I love it, but it does bring this anxiety to it. The anxiety of, I always call this job like going on a blind date.
Because you never know what you're going to get on the other side.
You never know what you're going to get on the other side. So, you know, it's exciting. I love it. You never know what's going to happen in the city that you're touring because you can't plan a city, right? You could just have an itinerary. So you know where you're going, where you have to be. And I'm the leader of the group. So my role is to lead everyone who's coming to this town because they don't know it. They might live there, or they might have been there, but they also want to let go of control. And some people cannot do that.
Yeah. So you're the tour guide, right?
Yes.
And, I equate it to even like coming to a yoga class. When people come to a yoga class, I'm the tour guide, right? I am responsible for holding space for their experience, but I'm not responsible for their individual experiences. So, it's interesting because when you said it's like going on a blind date, I thought, isn't every day going on a blind date with yourself? Because we think we know that there's a predictability factor, but really there isn't. There isn't. We use predictability to make us feel safe. So we try to predict how the day is going to go so that we feel safe. And it's interesting in how we make our predictions. So some people predict worst case scenarios. And so they are waiting the whole entire day for the shoe to drop because they expect things to go wrong. Other people maybe are able to tap into expecting best case scenarios and creating things that, feel good for them. And that's really energy at work, because what we're paying attention to is what we're attracting more of. So if we're paying attention to all of the potential things that could possibly go wrong, then that's what we're looking for. Where if we're paying attention to the things that are going to light us up, inspire us, fire us up, align with who we are, then that's what we're noticing. And when we notice more of that, so momentum isn't always good because momentum goes either way you want it to, right? It can be rolling out of control down a hill headed for a train wreck, or momentum could be a slow build to the most authentic version of yourself. So paying attention to your thoughts, paying attention to your attitude, paying attention to your mindset, recognizing how you feel and honoring that and being okay with that. You know, some days the momentum is heading south. You know, other days the momentum is heading north. But we don't have to stay in it, and we don't have to stay in it every day. And just because we've always thought that way doesn't mean we have to continue thinking that way. So you might have been raised in an environment of worst case scenarios. You might have been prepared every day before you left for school for all the things that could have happened. The bus crash on the way to school, you know, the armed gunman in school, the failing grades at school, like, you know, that could have been how you were prepared for your day. And if that's the cycle, you don't have to stay in it.
Oh God, I love it, because I want to bring up 2 points that you're making here. That's what I'm getting from this. So we have the idea of what our day is going to be. So for me as a tour leader, I know what I need to hit markers. Mostly if there's a ticket, if there's a restaurant, you know, I have to make those as much as I can. And then the rest, they're fillers. That's what the sales team calls it. And it's fabulous. And there are people who can go with the flow and allow that itinerary not to be exactly as it is. And then I'll have a client who is like, no way, it says here that at this time you're taking me here. Meanwhile, I'm dealing with the traffic, the city that never sleeps, the bus that broke down, and 50 kids that I need to get there. And right, so flexibility, the ability to be flexible in dealing with people, because when we have ourselves, so I want to say the parenting ourselves. I went through my last tour was a tough one, and I had a feeling something was going to change. Susan, I just felt this energy. I even took a picture on my Instagram post where it said, "Do not enter." And they were coming from the airport. It's one of those few tours where I pick up people at the airport. And I wrote, like something about like the expectations or something. Like I had all these expectations.
Yes. And you just said the 2 words that I had already connected in my head. Flexibility is directly tied to expectation. So if you are expecting a certain outcome, you are rigid, not flexible. If you are allowing outcomes to unfold, maybe you were meant to go here, but by a happy accident, you ended up having, some other fabulous experience that you may not have had you been so rigid, right? So flexibility is directly tied to attachment to outcomes or expectations.
So as a leader, I have to have that flexibility, and I have to this is where my life coaching path has started to mold as I look back at what have I done, and what, this job I'm always retiring from, and I keep going back because the energy pulls me, because I love it, because it's 3 days of excitement of me not knowing what's going to happen, and that makes me high. Okay.
Yeah, it's a hit. You get a hit from the excitement, the uncertainty, a little bit of the chaos, and some of that, Emerald, if we're going to be totally honest, comes from your chaos when you were young. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You were fired up or energized or motivated by chaos. So
Right.
So recognize that is what fuels you.
Yeah, and I do. So now I'm in a different phase in my life where it's like, I know what I'm doing, I know what I can control and what I can't control. And so I have to teach that to my clients. I have to tell that to the client, I have to tell that to the group. And but I'm also learning a lot about parenting myself, like you said. So you mentioned about being in the moment. So being present with your feelings and allowing these feelings that come up with the interactions of the people that we have throughout the day to either deal with them and or hide them, right? And I'm no longer in that point where I want to put it under the rug. I want to deal with it, and I want to sit with it and allow myself to heal from it so that it no longer keeps coming back.
Right. Right.
And in that process, it's hard because it's painful.
Yes,
It's
well,
not fun.
when we have a very strong reaction to somebody that we first meet, it's because that somebody that we just met is representative of somebody that we have in our life that invokes or evokes a similar strong reaction, right? So somebody comes on the tour and they behave in a certain way, and your whole entire being goes, ah. It's because they are representative of someone that you have in your circle that is the same, that has the same mannerisms, patterns, behaviors, languaging, whatever it is that sets you off or triggers you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it's not even necessarily that person, it's
No. Absolutely, absolutely. And now that I'm aware of it, right? Awareness is a key. I mean, we talk about it, right? So we could do the talk, but can you do the walk, right? Can you
apply
talk
it.
about this nonstop? Can I read all these books? Can I feel this energy? I just went to the Hay House event. I can do it, which was a beautiful weekend. You know, first time since COVID of people getting together. And even there too, our expectations, right? Because you think that everyone's on a high note and we're all going to sort of be spiritual people and we're all gonna walk around, you know, being kind to each other. And to find out that, you know what, it happens to be that some of us still, you know, we're energy. Somebody has a bad day, somebody says something to somebody.
Triggered by something.
It triggers, right? So I was already aware of this, right? During this weekend, I was like, wow, you know, I'm in this beautiful space. There's beautiful people with energy. But I still need to take care of my energy. And I have to take care of me. So since I didn't learn the lesson, you know, I get 1 week later.
Or the next week. There's no accidents. I mean, you know, it's not even
And I'm
coincidental.
realizing this as we're talking, Susan, okay? So guys, I'm putting this together as we're digesting this for ourselves and for you as the audience, right? I'm realizing now, right? Because this also had to be a group that was very religious and was part of my culture, and I was not accepted. And all of a sudden, like you said, Susan, there was this inner child trigger that I thought had been, and I'll use the word tame because that's what we humans do, right? We tame things. We go, okay, I'm done with that. I no longer feel this pain. And then all of a sudden,
Whoosh. Yeah.
there's this one crazy conversation. Nothing, they didn't say anything. They didn't yell at me, but they reprimanded me in a way that all of a sudden took me back. And all of a sudden, I was like, I don't have control of this. What's going on? This is not the tours that I have. I'm not connecting with these people. My people pleasing comes through. Is now I know what it is.
Yeah. You're aware of it.
Right now, I know I have my team who to call. We talk about this all the time. Who are the people, even if it's one person, guys? And the most important one person that you actually need to call is yourself.
Yes.
Is your energy back to yourself. It's parenting yourself. We had Natasha here. Her book is gorgeous, and I've been reading it, of inner child healing and being the parent to yourself. And I had to pull those tools out, like in an emergency, because all of a sudden my system is starting to shut down and I don't have time because I still need to lead. I still have a responsibility to stay focused. And anxiety is already happening because I'm in a city that I don't go to all the time. I projected already that this was going to be stressful because I was already stressed about, I told people, right? What we say all of a sudden becomes a magnet, right? I was a little bit stressed about going to DC. I was a little bit stressed about leading and talking about history.
You allowed the worry to infiltrate the energy.
Yeah. And in that infiltration, all these inner child things came up. my insecurity is a feeling that I'm not smart enough. That little girl who felt that she didn't pass history. She doesn't know what she's talking about.
Right.
She doesn't fit in with her own people because this was what the connection she wanted. She wanted a connection with these people who spoke Spanish, right? A Latin country. Oh, we should be able to connect and have a great time because we have things in common. And all of a sudden, it was like we're like this.
Right. Right. So coincidence? No, I think.
No,
Louise
absolutely not.
Hay, so you went to the Hay House thing. Louise Hay says you can heal your life. That's her book. It's a fabulous book. You can heal your life, right? And
Mm.
then you say, oh, I'm healed. I'm healed. I did that work. I did that work. And the universe says, you did some of that work. Let me show you where the rest of your work is in this particular area. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. But we are, our triggers and our responses, are all inside wounds that, that we're forever working on, that, we have wounds that we are so subconscious that we can't recognize them until we see them again with adult eyes. Like,
but seeing them with the adult eyes and loving ourselves is the hard part.
yeah, without judgment, holding
Without
space.
judgment, right? We're saying, okay, so you're afraid, you're crying, you need to cry, let's cry. Let's cry it out. I got to my room that night and I cried like I haven't cried in a long time.
Yeah, and those tears were not just for what happened in May of 2023. Those
No.
tears were shed when they couldn't be, in the year
Absolutely.
19,
Yeah.
80, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Loving myself. I gave myself a hug. I allowed that inner child who was feeling this hurt to be loved, and telling her, and to our audience, I know that sometimes this sounds like, well, how is this? We're talking about energy. We're talking about the subconscious that does not know timing.
Doesn't know time or age. That's
Time or
right.
age. So when you believe this, guys, I mean, it's either writing a journal, writing a letter to yourself, to that younger self, and being an adult to that younger self. Some of us, like myself, did not have adults
Right.
who loved me, who hugged me, who I need to constantly be reminded. And now I know I could do that to myself.
So because you were at an arm's length, when someone from your culture directly puts you at arm's length and reprimands you, of course it takes you back there. Of course it takes you back there. But what a beautiful thing to share. Thank you. And when you learn to hold space for yourself, to recognize that you are not any of those things, but you are a cultivation of all of those things, and we need to have those moments to create the clarity. So often we want to pretend we feel good all the time, and like you said,
Oh, yes.
you're at a Hay House event, it's, all peace, love, and roses, and you know what? No, there's plenty of thorns. There's plenty of things that need to be stripped away. There's plenty of, opportunity to keep doing the work. We're going to constantly come up against things that are going to show us stuff. And if we can't figure out a way to look at that, to be introspective and to feel and to recognize and to hold space for and to not judge, then we don't grow. Then we don't grow. Then we stay.
And then we don't grow, and then we don't have empathy for others, and then we can't have love for others if we don't have love for ourselves. I mean, Louise Hay talks about this so much. The healing yourself is loving yourself. It's loving that baby, that inner child, and that you are now an adult and you're in control. And that the triggers, we talk about Don Miguel Ruiz, the 4 agreements, right? It doesn't, and it's hard. Guys, it's hard when
It
somebody
seems so
triggers
simple.
something in you. It's you know, don't take things personal. Oh.
But understand that you have no idea where people are coming from, and where they're coming from is their own hurt.
And the things that we see in people are the things that either triggers us and hurt us, the things that we don't like in people. You guys can look this up 1,000 times. It's been said in a different ways. We're saying it again. Gabby Bernstein says it a different way. Rebecca Campbell says it in a different way. We are all saying the same thing.
It's the mirror effect. What you
Right.
see in others that you have an aversion to, you need to see in yourself. Why does that bother me? I have to ask myself, why does that bother me? That's theirs, not mine. Why do I allow myself to be derailed by that?
Yeah. You know, and for our audience, you know, for me, just in the story, you know, it was 4 days.
Torturous days.
There could have been, and I almost used that word too, Suzanne. They could have been torturous. But you know what, guys? I don't like being alone. I have a hard time being alone. I'm an extrovert. I get very much of my energy being around other people. But in that also comes the fault of me being an open energy vampire, come get me. So I had to shut down in a good way where I was protecting myself. I had to pray, and boy, did we pray, because we went to church and all this good stuff. And so the Catholic in me was having all these arguments and disagreements of my life right now, the judgment, the, you know, Will, how spiritual are you if you're not even doing this and this, you know, in all the circles, Susan, you know, in all of this, I sat through it. I had plenty of time to be alone in this tour, which was a gift. I don't take it for granted. One of my biggest things that I was so worried about, guys, was the fact that I had to do this monument tour. If you have gone to DC, one of the big things you do, you know, you go to all the monument tours. I had to do the Arlington Cemetery. And the whole time, you know, there's like anxiety is just coming through. Like, I'm not gonna remember where JFK is buried, like he moved. I'm not gonna remember where the Tombs of the Unknown is because it moved, you know. Meanwhile, guys, there's like 20,000, like 2,000 t-shirts, neon t-shirts guiding me, right? Like if I can't see the line,
You can't find it. That's right.
You know, because of blindness, right? Because fear, your ego protects you.
And you go into survival mode. And when you're in survival
Yes.
mode, you cannot think or be clear. Survival mode removes the ability to access clear thought, and just simply it's like survival. And you're like, how come I can't remember all this stuff? It's because you put yourself into a panic.
Yes. And that happened to me one of the days. So that night after crying, and I, you know, talked to a good friend, and she held space for me, and, you know, I journaled, I gave myself love and put myself to sleep. And I said, tomorrow's another day, right? Like, how can I continue to deal with this? You know, and yes, there were triggers and things that kept happening, and awareness of knowing that if you let fear and the judgment that you think you're done, then this is not going to go well, because then you're going to make more mistakes.
Let's go right back to how you set yourself up. Is it going to be the worst case scenario, or the best case scenario? Today is over. What can you do to set tomorrow up for success?
Yeah. I mean, there were people like, you know, I would have quit Amaryllis. I would have left those people and be like, go where you came from and talk to you later, right? But I kept coming back because, one, I'm very loyal to what I do and respect what I do.
And you were getting something from it.
And I was getting something from it. Yeah. So you know, I was so stressed about this monument tour, but going back to my point, and all of a sudden, I'm going through the itinerary with the leader, and he says, you know, this time from 3 to 6:30, we're just gonna do our own thing. Just point us out in the directions where things are. And then we're just gonna go ahead. And I said, oh, that's fabulous. That's a great idea.
Free. You got what you asked for.
I got what I asked for.
The best case scenario for the monuments was that they were going to self-guide.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I spent time by myself. I took myself for a really beautiful stroll. I rediscovered DC. I reconnected with DC. Now I know why I cannot stand DC. So now I see DC in a different era, in a different light of my eyes because of my fears of history, my fears of not knowing the date of all of these things. When I know so much, I mean, when I start talking on the mic, all of these things come up because I've been through so many tours and I've had guides come in and talk about DC. I knew what I was saying. But Susan, I remember stumbling through things because I was so afraid that the fear kept making me forget things.
Yep. Takes away your ability to be clear.
So guys, when we pause, and when we talk about all the time, pausing, hugging a tree, connecting with Mother Earth, whatever it is that works for you, to just collect your energy back and ground yourself. And guys, I was so not grounded. And I knew I had to work on grounding myself. I knew I had to work on bringing my energy back to myself. I had to bring it back to my love. And that this was a lesson and, reaching out to the right people. And then I knew I was going to be okay. Guess what, guys? They weren't coming to my house. They were going to go bye-bye.
Right, it was over. It was going to, there was an end date.
There was an
and
ending to it. Oh, thank God. But, and even that, I made a decision to end it early. And I said goodbye with grace, with dignity, with love.
knowing that you got just as much as they did in your discomfort.
Yes, guys. So in the discomfort is when we have to hold space for ourselves, guys, and love ourselves. Please, please, because I know, and I know Susan knows, and you guys know, it is painful. And I don't want to picture this pretty.
It's not easy work.
It's not easy. It hurts. I could cry about it right now. It hurts, guys. But that pain is going to get better, and I promise you it will. And it's going to keep healing, and it is going to keep coming up. And it's been years that I haven't felt this pain. Years, guys. I could say probably like 10 years that I have not been into this pain of this that I had through this journey of that weekend. And what needed to come out had to show up so that I can continue to heal, so that I can continue to give love genuinely, so that this podcast can grow to the next level. And we continue to give the love through this channel for those that are in pain or feeling alone. You are never alone.
And kudos to you, Amaryllis, for leaning into it, because it's so much easier to just put it back in the box and, store it away till next time. So you got to feel it to heal it.
Gotta feel it to heal it. That's it, guys. It's a wrap. Thank you for being here with us. You know where to catch us. We're on Spotify, podcast. Look at my throat. My throat chakra is just a hot mess. Thank you guys, because it's still healing. We are still healing at this moment. And you guys, our process of talking right now, we don't, is just all coming to fruition. So I want to give you guys so much love and thank you for joining us. You know where to find us. Have a good one.
Thank you.